I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. I love startups, and really what got me started on the road to startups was when I was doing my JD MBA, or my law degree, as well as a Master of Business Administration. So when I got into it, I didn't know if I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know if I wanted to be an attorney. So I decided rather than choose one or the other, I would do both as I was going through school. So I came off as I just finished up at BYU with an electrical engineering degree as well as a Chinese degree, and was going off to graduate school. And I did the JD MBA as a way that I could understand from a startup or small business's angle of what they are facing on the business side as well as what they're facing on the legal side. And while I was kind of studying that and learning about the law side and the business side, I actually entered into what was a business competition when I was a student there. And so when I was doing that, I went in with a couple other people, didn't know them beforehand, but we formed a group and we did my first startup. And that really got me involved and engaged with the startup community. And so I started that, and it was a wearable hydration device you put on your wrist. And the reason I even did that was at the time I was running marathons, and I still like to run and exercise and do other things. And that time I started doing marathons. And I was just coming off of my first marathon, and I didn't realize the importance of hydration. So I severely hadn't or drank enough beforehand, and while I was running, I thought, hey, rather than stop at every station and drink, I'll just simply go ahead and drink once in a while, and then it'll cut down on my time, which is an absolutely wrong thing to do when you're running a marathon. So with that in mind, I said, okay, if I'm having this issue and people are getting into it and not knowing where their hydration is and how much to hydrate, maybe other people need to. So we entered the business competition on that idea of making a wearable. This was back in 2013. You didn't have the iWatch, you didn't have the Fitbit, you didn't have any of those, and it was kind of an idea of why don't we make something you can wear, and we created that, entered the business competition. I finished that up, and I was finishing up my last year when we did that competition, so I bought out my partners in the company. And after I bought out the partners in the company, I decided, okay, what am I going to do for my career? I said I wanted to stay in the law field, wanted to be an attorney, spent a lot of time and effort to do that, but I wanted to stay in the startup. So went and worked for a few law firms that were larger law firms, big law firms, got a lot of experience. And while I was doing that, I also continued to work on the startup. So on the startup on the side, getting that up and going, grew that to a multi-million-dollar company, while I was also helping other companies do their intellectual property and the patents and trademarks. And in fact, my first patent was on the wearable hydration monitor. So that was the very first one that I prepared all the way through and filed and got allowed. And so that was kind of an exciting time. So kind of why I say all that is because I love startups, I love small businesses. I'm now, I think, on my fourth or fifth startup as I'm also running my own law firm. And for me, that's a plus. It's not only a plus for me that I can understand the business and the law for my own businesses, but also helps me to apply that same understanding to the other startups and small businesses that walk through the door that are needing help with patent and trademarks. I don't just tell you what you need to know on the legal side. I'll let you know, if I were in your shoes, what I would do on the startup side, how I would go about getting investment dollars. Would I get investment dollars? Would I spend the money does it make sense to spend the money? How much would I spend? All of those things. Or I tell you it doesn't make sense, and it gives me a much better perspective because I am doing startups and I continue to do startups, and I've been in that world, and it makes it really enjoyable to sit down with the startups and be able to go back and forth and understand where they're coming from and give that strategy as opposed to just a legal analysis.